Hey, Chief.
What's up?
I know it's late, but happy birthday.
Oh man, don't worry about it. Is this a Christmas box?
Man, just open it.
Okay. Sorry. I'll open it. Oh, dude. Man, but the screen's messed up.
What are you talking about? Let me see.
Look.
Oh man, this is normal. This is what it always looked like.
No, I remember it being brighter. Whatever.
Man.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is George, and this is my channel, where I share my mostly gaming-related projects with you guys. Today is the first episode of a series I want to call Nostalgia Versus. And for our first episode, we're going to be tackling this, the AGB 001. Now, this model, my earliest memory, is actually sitting outside of an original house of pancakes with the rest of my family waiting for a table. And it was my brother's. It was that same color, the Glacier, and he had Mario Kart Super Circuit. And I remember thinking how incredible it was that we were playing what looked like to us at the time a straight port of a Super Nintendo game in a handheld. And it was incredible. The screen was perfect. I had no trouble seeing it. But that's a lot of nostalgia. And if you've picked one up in the last 20 years, you know that number one, that screen's not backlit, and number two, the colors are very muted. So today, we're going to be adding a backlight to it. And we're going to use that and see how that compares to how it looked in our mind back in the day. So without any more delay, let's jump into what we need. Okay, so the first thing we need is our donor, obviously, and from this, we're going to be taking the motherboard, the shoulder buttons, the power switch, the face buttons, and all the silicone for those face buttons, and I believe that's it. Then we've got our V3.0 laminated IPS kit from Funnyplaying, and we also picked up a pre-cut shell from Funnyplaying, and this should make it a lot easier to drop in that screen. We won't have to spend a lot of time trimming away plastic and stuff like that. It can be kind of almost the hardest part of most of these kinds of mods. I know that's what I spend most of the time doing whenever I don't get a pre-cut shell. So for this one, pre-cut. As usual, the first thing we're going to do is disassemble our donor. And for the back, we've got tri-wing screws. So we've got these 6 tri-wing screws out, and we've got one more, a Phillips, in the battery compartment. Now that we've got it disassembled, we've got a little bit of work we need to do. First, we've got to test the screen without fully installing it. If it got damaged in shipping, they want you to test it before you finish the install, because if not, they won't send you a replacement. Test it first, then you can finish your install. And after we test it, I'm actually going to take these little pieces and the silicone pads to wash them because they're a little dirty and we've got them out anyway. So the first thing we need to do is figure out which version of the motherboard we've got. As you can see right here, we've got the 40 pin. So we're going to use the larger side of this ribbon cable, and the contacts need to face up when you put it in here. Lock down the connector, and then we're going to flip it over, and we're actually going to place this in the back of the shell. That's so we have somewhere to put the batteries. And then the screen is going to be upside down because the contacts on the screen need to be facing the ribbon cable. Lock that connector down. Make sure our switch is set to off. Grab some batteries. And there you go. Screen's working perfectly. No issues. What we're looking for is just cracks or any discoloration in the screen. So we don't have any of that. Time to move on. So to clean up the parts that we're reusing, I've just got a little tub, some warm water, some dish soap, some dye-free dish soap, and a toothbrush. After rinsing the soapy water off these pieces, we're just going to set them off to the side to let them dry off while we continue on with our mod. The next part we're going to do is completely optional. Now I'm going to do it because I can solder easily, and I like to have everything as full featured as possible. But we're going to pre-tin some spots on here and attach some wires. You can control everything with this little touch sensor right here. And it's just a combination of long presses and short presses to get it to work. When you solder it in, you're just going to hold down select and left and right to choose stuff and to change the values. We're going to be able to do it both ways with this one, so that's what we're going to do now. Our GameBoy's starting to take shape. First, we're going to put this light pipe in so that we can see the power LED through the shell. Put in all our buttons and the membranes. I think this one we're going to do after. We're going to put in our screen. And this one's laminated, so we don't need to worry about getting any dust trapped underneath. This film is just to protect it from scratches and shipping. So we're going to take that off because the inside of this shell is actually beveled for the screen to sit in, and the edge of the screen is beveled as well. So we're just going to drop that in there. Let's move this membrane out of the way for now. Then we're going to take a ribbon cable, and it's going to get plugged in. It's not completely necessary, but I'm going to use some double-sided tape to stick this ribbon cable down so it's not moving around inside the case. And before we put this bracket in, another thing we're going to do is we're going to take the touch sensor and just tape it down so it's touching the front glass. And we've got to feed the ribbon cable and our wires through And then it's got to sit under these little pieces. It just snaps into place. And that's going to hold our screen so it doesn't move around. Since we're going to be folding over this connector that we're not using, it's going to cover up the little marks right here saying which wire is which. So we're just going to take some pieces of tape. And this first one is going to be our select. The one in the middle is our right. And that leaves the last one left. Now we can take those three, run them up through here, and we're going to take this, fold it over, and fold it down. So this extra ribbon that we folded over, first I'm going to put a piece of tape across the contacts, just so they don't short out to anything. And then we've got another piece of tape to hold it down. Now we're going to solder these three wires to our motherboard. Before we drop our motherboard in, we need to trim this piece of plastic right here where the link port is. First up is test point 9, where we're going to solder the left shoulder button. Then test point 2 is going to be for select. And then finally, we've got test point 8 for the right shoulder button. And with all our solder connections made, now we can flip this over and we're going to connect the ribbon cable. We'll drop our board in place, making sure not to pinch any of the wires between the board. We'll put our three Phillips head screws. Now I'm reusing the hardware from the original Game Boy because it's just a little bit higher quality than what you get with the aftermarket shells. Let's talk about comparisons. Here we've got an original AGB 001. No backlight, no screen modification. This is what it looks like under a good light source. It's not perfect, but honestly, back in the day, this was amazing. It really blew our minds. And this is the screen that we put in at full brightness. You can see it from almost any angle. The colors are vibrant. It's much brighter. You do have to have it set to this max brightness if you're playing this outside on a sunny day. And I'll show you why. Here's our new screen at the minimum brightness. And as you can see, it's even darker than the original screen. This screen gets all of its light from the backlight. The way the original screen worked was there was a reflective layer underneath the LCD panel that reflected the light from your surroundings back to you through the LCD. Now indoors, in a dark room, you would probably want to play it at this minimum brightness, but outside, you're definitely going to have to turn it up. And this is the middle setting. It strikes a good balance between battery life and brightness. I'm not sure that I would be able to play it in direct sunlight, but this will probably get you by in almost every scenario. Certainly it works for indoors. Hey, quick note from the editing table. I already gave that Game Boy to the person I built it for, and I did not even mention the different video modes and the frame blending feature on the IPS kit. Now, for the video modes, there's an anti-aliasing mode that kind of like blurs it a little bit, so it kind of looks like a CRT. That's not how it originally looked, so I don't consider that something to make it more nostalgic, so I don't think that matters. Uh, Same kind of goes for their pixel mode, because it's not really pixels, it adds scan lines. And while great, scan lines kind of looks like a CRT again, also not how the original was displayed. It was little squares. The frame blending, if you don't turn it on, then yes, you'll notice the difference between the IPS and an original. But if it's on, there's no difference. The transparencies will look the same on the IPS as they do on an original screen. So I don't know that that would make a difference on whether it's nostalgic or not. I think that's it. Sorry. Back to the video. And with that, our backlit Game Boy Advance is done. But back to the original topic. This is nostalgia versus. So, does the original hold up to what's possible with modern technology? And in this case, in my opinion, I think it does. Under a good light source, the original Game Boy Advance looks amazing. It still feels good in your hands, and it's completely playable. Yes, this screen is backlit, and it's undoubtedly more versatile. But I'm not playing my old consoles because they're versatile. I'm playing it because I love them. And this makes it easier to love, without a doubt. And for most people, in fact for I would say 99% of people, I would definitely recommend this if you want to play Game Boy Advance on a regular basis. The colors pop more, it's got more contrast, but something about that original screen just feels right. And that's probably just the nostalgia. But this isn't reality versus, this is nostalgia versus. So that carries some weight. But what do you think? Is this completely necessary? Would you do it? Or are you happy to just play your Game Boy Advance in its original form with a nearby lamp or some overhead lighting? Let me know down in the comments. And if you liked this video, hit that like button. If you didn't like it, hit the dislike. But for now, I'll see you in the next one. Hey Chief.
What's up?
Hey, I didn't need to get upset like that. Here, I fixed it.
Oh. Yeah, see? This is what I'm talking about. This is what it always looked like. Thanks.
Are you not gonna play it?
What do you mean? You actually play them? I thought you just put them out on display.